welcome to our tonight's focus on wedding ceremonies. So I'm just going to introduce everyone who's on the call. So we have Siobhan from Amarone Music, we have Aileen from Ceremonies Central, and we have Iain from Piping Services Scotland. And of course, I am Kirsty Duncan and I'm a wedding ceremony singer. So let's start with Aileen, and could you tell us a wee bit more about what you do?
Well, hi everybody, I'm Aileen from Ceremonies Central, and I'm the person who would be conducting your wedding ceremony. And obviously that's the central part of your wedding. That's the most important part of it, because you need somebody to authorise your marriage, to register your marriage. So I'm the person who actually makes your party into a wedding.
Siobhan, do you want to tell us a wee bit more about what you do?
Sure, so I run Amarone Music, which is a trio or quartet with violin, like a string quartet, but then we're a wee bit different because we've also got flute and guitar or piano. And we specialise in your ceremony music. So that's everything from as your guests are arriving to create that nice atmosphere, then the special music for down the aisle, adding music during the signing of the register, and then something for walking back out to again. And it's such a lovely way to get a nice personalised touch to your day, with something, a totally unique setup of instruments too. So like Aileen was saying, just so passionate about putting music and weddings together. They're my two loves and absolutely love my job. And delighted that we've been recognised in the industry as well as award winners too. So we must be doing something right, and our couples, you know, the testimonials we get from them are absolutely brilliant, and that personalised connection we get with them is so important as well. I just love getting to know couples and adding what's really special for them to their day.
So Iain, would you like to tell us a bit more about what you do?
Yes, thanks. My name's Iain from Piping Services Scotland. I've been providing traditional music for weddings since 2001, so actually next month is 20 years. And we do, obviously, from before the ceremony for arrival outside to greet the guests, traditionally for their wedding, and then we do a lot of piping down the aisle and piping back up the aisle, all the way through to leading the top table and to dinner, maybe some background playing in between.
So I'm Kirsty and I'm a wedding ceremony singer, and I've been singing at ceremonies since 2007. It's one of my favourite things to do, and there's nothing like singing as someone walks down the aisle. I think one of the things I really love is working with couples and working out you know, what music that they want, because many people come and they just know, like, this is what I want to sing at the register, this is what I want, this part's what, this other part. But many people come and they've never really thought about it before. And I was doing some stats recently and found out that actually out of all the couples I've ever sung for, 40% of couples had never thought about having a wedding ceremony singer before they met me. So I think for me, there's so much that live music can bring, whatever kind of live music you have, whether it's a singer or other musicians. And I just think it just brings so much. If you're someone who loves live music, then it's really something to consider for your wedding ceremony. So Aileen, what do couples need to do first whenever they start planning their ceremony?
Well, I think what couples need to do first, and what couples think they need to do first when they're planning their ceremony, are sometimes two different things. And I quite often, in fact, I almost always get asked questions on that entirely the wrong way round. Practically always the first question I'm asked is, how much does it cost? And the second one will be, what about all the paperwork? Now those are both very, very important questions, but as far as the legal paperwork and things go, then your celebrant's there to guide you through that. Hundreds of thousands of people get married in the UK every year, and they all manage to get the legalities done. So really don't sweat over that, don't get anxious over that. And the bit about price, when couples lead on how much does it cost, that can be a tricky one. And I would just say, beware of circumstances where you are just given a price, because if you're given a standard price, you're going to get a standard service. And I think that applies in all areas of your wedding, but it probably applies particularly to your ceremony. If somebody just has a standard price, then they just have a standard ceremony. You're probably hoping for circumstances where you've got a range of prices. So there is a price range that most of my ceremonies would fall into, but there are also people who want something very, very simple, like something in their own back garden, then that's going to be an awful lot simpler. But if they want an awful lot of brand new writing, or they want me to go and scope out an outdoor venue up Glencoe, then these kind of things might cost a wee bit more. So I would say, again, don't concentrate on price, particularly with me. Your price will work itself out. That's not going to be a real problem. So those are the first things that people tend to ask, and it's good to get them over and done with. The kind of thing that they should be concentrating on is finding a celebrant who reflects the kind of person that you are. You want to find somebody who is prepared to sit down, have a coffee with you, spend plenty of time with you before you even decide that's who you want to book. You want to talk to them about things like who do you want involved in the ceremony? Where are the things that you just have no idea what you want in your ceremony? What kind of music do you like? What kind of books do you read? What kind of movies do you watch? What's life already like for you as a couple? Are you already together? Have you got children? You know, we just want to, let's just get to know each other, because it is so critically important that your ceremony represents you and not any ideas that your celebrant, you know, it's not, this is not done according to your celebrant's structure or your celebrant's ideas. In Scotland, there's actually no reason at all why you have to choose particular words. There's no legal form of words in Scotland that has to be used in a wedding. You can get married anywhere that you've got permission, and you can get married at any time of day or night. You can have anybody involved that you want. Your scope for your wedding in Scotland is one of the widest you'll get anywhere in the world. Truly is the best country in the world to get married in. So at the beginning, one of the first things you should be doing is just exploring all these amazing options that you have, and you should be choosing a celebrant who's prepared to put that time in with you and find out what it is you want, because when you approach your celebrant, you've probably got no idea at all. You need a celebrant that's going to work with you and let you know what your options are.
Aileen, I really enjoyed something you said when we discussed previously about getting to know your couples, and you said one of the ways you do that really quickly is by asking them about their music tastes. And it's so true, isn't it? If you ask them what they like, and they're everything from Metallica to musicals, and it just gives you a really good idea of their personalities and what sort of ceremony style will suit them as well.
It opens a huge door to you when you start to know what kind of music people like, because there are times where I really do want to recommend, like, oh, maybe it is traditional music that I want to recommend. Maybe I want to recommend live music. Maybe I want to recommend something very vocal. It really, again, that'll depend on what do they like to listen to. Quite often, you'll put that along with the age of the couple. Gone are the days where it was only a particular age of couples that were getting married. The last couple that I married, I'm sure they won't mind me saying, were a pair of old rascals. They were a very healthy age. And the music that they chose from their ceremony was a huge wide range and a very, very traditional instrumental piece. But I also had U2 and stuff like that in there. So finding out that immediately let me know they were a very eclectic couple, that we could do all sorts of unusual things with them. Whereas if they're restricted to a particular type, if they only listen to one particular type of music, then you'll maybe want to try and keep things a wee bit more restrained and not frighten them with too many wild ideas with things like that. But knowing what their tastes in music are, I think, is it's always one of the first things that I'll start to get to know. Find out what music are they listening to, and it lets me know what kind of people they are.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that happened recently, I was chatting to some people down south, and I was just about to say, what about a piper? And then I realised that that wasn't actually something that, that they actually have very often. And I was, you know, I was going to ask you in a bit more about that, because I think for me, like, I'm so used to turning up to a wedding to sing at a wedding or to be a guest at a wedding, and 9 times out of 10, it's a piper that I see first outside greeting the guests with just amazing, like, Scottish traditional music. And I think it's something people absolutely love, don't they?
It tends to be, yeah, it tends to be obviously for Scottish people getting married, you know, whether it be in Scotland or whether it be down south or further afield. And I've many times gone to lovely climates which are maybe a wee bit too warm for playing the pipes, which is why we maybe play the pipes here more than anywhere else. But yes, certainly, I haven't really, I mean, obviously people that live in Scotland as well, you know, you might have, for example, an English and Welsh marriage, and because it's in Scotland, and obviously people coming, the amount of times I've played for people coming from the States and having a Scottish wedding, kind of, so it does kind of, you say 9 out of 10, I'd say that's probably quite close to on the mark, but it's kind of part and parcel of a Scottish wedding. It's not for everyone, to be honest. Some people might work on Buchanan Street or something like that and have to have the buskers playing permanently outside their office, and it might be some on their list of people they want taken off the planet. So you have to understand, obviously, it's certainly not everyone's cup of tea. They are a very loud instrument as well, which is why obviously we tend to play more outside. But for short bits of playing, like so, you know, you're down the aisle, or quite often, obviously, working with other instruments as well, coming back up the aisle. Generally, you wouldn't really have a piper playing during the signing of a register, which is absolutely ideal for both a singer and, you know, kind of classical trios and quartets, because it is just a bit too long. We do have other types of instruments we can use inside, like the small pipes and so on, which, but they are quite hard to come by, especially people that can play them well. So it can be a bit kind of choice. That's where kind of arranging different parts, or the different parts of the ceremony, kind of different packages kind of comes in.
I absolutely love it when there's pipes when we're playing as well. And like Kirsty, as a guest and as a supplier, you turn up and you hear pipes and you just know it's a special occasion. It just adds that emotion to the day, I think, when you turn up and you see that. And I think that's where I particularly love working with a piper, because you've got that for guests going into the building. Then once everyone's seated and it's either the sound of the pipes in the background or nothing, where, you know, a singer or instrumentalist can fill in that wee gap where there's that wait. And I think one of my favourite moments at a wedding is when you then hear the pipes again after a wee period of time. You know the bride's there or whoever is arriving, and it's just that wee excitement of, yeah, they're there, we'll play for a wee bit longer as photographs and things like that are getting taken. And then I think it's having the option of, you know, they can choose to walk down the aisle to pipes, or have us for the bridesmaids and pipes for the bride, or a collaboration, which we've done before as well. It's just nice to have that versatility, I think.
Absolutely, and to have at that point as well, to have music happening just before the ceremony, because you know, speaking as, you know, when I've been there as a guest, actually, I remember getting to a wedding, chatting to some of my friends, and then it was this sort of moment where we kind of forgot we were at a wedding. And, you know, I know that if there'd been some music going on, like, you know, I would sometimes do as a supplier, I would have been more in that frame of mind, whereas it was kind of quite strange, because we got to the point where, you know, there's sort of like everyone kind of be upstanding, that kind of moment. And I remember sort of just looking at my friends and go, oh yeah, like, okay, yeah, it's the wedding's about to start. But I think that for me is something that's really significant when you can have music. And I think sometimes it can be music that's you know, maybe particularly for the person who's there waiting, like usually the groom, you know, you're having that
going.
It's really lovely. It's something that definitely can really make it, and for sure can although, do you know, it actually reminds me of going, and I was singing just before a wedding once, and I was looking at these people coming in, and they were all reading newspapers, and I was thinking, that's really like what's happening here. That's really awkward. And then I realized that was what the order of service was on, and it was like, you know, like crosswords and stuff. I was like in the back of my head thinking, how rude! Like, what are these people doing? And then so I was just having this moment where I was just like, but it just brings so much, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's important to think about that moment of handover between the music and the beginning of the ceremony, which can sometimes be a wee bit clunky, you know, when, you know, the music has stopped and nobody quite knows what's going to happen next. They don't know, is the celebrant ready to start? Is the bride ready to come down the aisle and things like that? And I think if you get a celebrant who's prepared to take control of that little handover and just let the musicians, you know, okay, we need another 10 bars, you know, kind of thing.
Aileen, you've hit the nail on the head. The number of times that I've said, oh, the celebrant expects us just to be psychic. I know. And because we've got years of experience, we generally do know, but sometimes it's just a bit clearer than others. And I think the timing aspect of it, even the walk down the aisle, which can sometimes, they can be so excited and they run, and bridesmaids just like it's charged down one after the other, or there's a wee bit of nerves, emotion, there's children involved, sometimes even animals. You don't know what's going to happen, so they need that bit extra. And I think that's where really live music lends itself so well to that part. And it's a bit that people don't really think about, is to have the perfect timing. And if you've got a special song, even like Pachelbel's Canon's the perfect example. If you've got a recording of that, it probably takes a minute and a half to get you to the good bit of the music. And most walk down the aisles really don't even take half that time. So live music, you can skip to parts, you can get to the most meaningful part of a song. That's the beauty of having live musicians who can react to that. And then once the bridal party are down the aisle, just giving a few moments, if they've got a veil to work with, or hand over flowers, a wee hug for dad or whoever, and just making sure everybody's really settled and ready to go. But at the same time, always think of Kate and Will's wedding. I suppose it's royal family in the news at the moment. But Kate and Will's, they obviously had rehearsed that to death, and they had their full orchestra and full choir and whatever else, organ and everything else going on. And I bet hardly anybody else noticed this, but when Kate got to the bottom of the aisle, there was a long wait. So somebody had obviously mistimed something, because they would have timed that perfectly. Mm-hmm. And that's where, with a full orchestra, you can't change things and like stop on this bar or whatnot. But with a smaller group or ensemble or piper or whatever, we're really the experts at timing that, so that there's not a long awkward pause, but at the same time you've got enough music to just, calm yourself and, just compose yourself ready for that moment. It's the first time you see each other probably on your wedding day, and to have that music setting the tone, it's really the soundtrack for it, is just a magical moment, I think.
Absolutely. And I think I was actually reminded of, I've done this at a few weddings, but there's one particular wedding where a bride said to me, I'm really worried about the timing of this. Like, she had quite a few bridesmaids. It was like, there was a lot going on. And I just said, what I'll do is, why don't I just nod when each person's supposed to come down the aisle? So I was in the middle of singing this beautiful song. And then I would just be like, you like a kind of thing. And but it was the absolute perfect timing, because they weren't having to think, where in the song do I have to start doing it. They just had that. And I think for me, that's why a lot of the time, if I can go to to a wedding rehearsal, I would do it, because actually for me, just knowledge is power, isn't it? If the more you know about a couple, and more that you know about how a ceremony is going to work, the more you can do. And with that, it meant we had a wee rehearsal the night before, made sure they knew, but it meant they had other things to think about. They had to walk down that aisle trying to think of all the stuff to do with that.
Not tripping
But for me, it means that I think this is one of the things that's so important to me is that thing of, you know, going above and beyond is something that doesn't take much, but actually can not only do so much to help people in their day, but actually means that you actually have, you know, just more of a bond with the couple that you're actually doing this for. And I think one of my favorites is I was outside of a church in the East End of Glasgow, and I was we were waiting. The bride had just arrived, and I'd gone out to just say hi, and we were chatting, and she sort of just said to me, I'd not really thought about the fact that the back of my train's not totally you know, not totally right, and I need someone to sort of, well, I was going to say floof it, but you know what I mean. And it was that moment where I just was like, well, actually, I wasn't, you know, singing until the first hymn, so actually the going down of the aisle I wasn't singing for. That moment I was doing the rest of the ceremony. So I did the back of her dress, and then I legged it down the side of the church and came in the side door ready to sing the first hymn. But actually for me, that will always be something that I'll remember, and I'm glad that I did that, because in those photos her dress was absolutely perfect. Because if you start walking and then it's not totally, you know, your bridesmaids are going before you and there's no one behind you, then, like, you know, what do you do? So I think like that kind of thing, honestly, I just love that. And, you know, many people would think, oh gosh, that's, you know, maybe like, is that really part of your job description? But I definitely think it is, and I love being alone. It's so much fun when you can be part of that, right?
From my point of view regarding that exact kind of thing, you wouldn't think it from a piper, but like, so if it's a church wedding, or if there's, you know, a string quartet or a singer doing the down the aisle part, the amount of times I've actually done, like, floofed the bride's dress is probably, I would say, hundreds of times. And it's like, you know, the piper's doing that. But there's other ones as well. When you turn up at weddings, there's the whole kilt outfit is obviously a big bugbear. And so I'm obviously, I pipe majored a kids pipe band for 5 years, so I'm used to just fixing outfits. And it's things like, so the flowers and the laces and the flashes. There's a really cracking photo outside a ceremony down in Bothwell years ago, and the father of the bride arrived with his flashes on the inside instead of the outside of the leg. So I'm like, right, okay, I need to fix this. So, and the photographer's like, this is a definite photo opportunity. And it's like, there's wee things like that people love, you know, and it's one of the great things about being kind of in the wedding industry. And, you know, it's like, you know, when you can be helpful and kind of just help people through their day. And it creates a kind of more of a bond and a memory as well with the customer.
I'm sure Aileen's very familiar with this, but the number of times I've been there and the groomsmen arrive and they haven't put their flowers, their corsage and stuff on, and you're having to help them do that and straightening their cravat and just making sure they all look perfect. Yeah. I've even been going round and sorting chair covers and things. I'm a total perfectionist. So if I see something at a ceremony, I'm not just there to do the music, I'm there to help in any way I can. And yeah, just making sure chair covers are all central and symmetrical. That's a real bugbear of mine. So obviously these events companies, you obviously wouldn't get that with make-believe events who would do it perfectly, but some of them, they're doing, you know, 10 weddings a day and really busy. Sometimes there's going to be little things that get overlooked, and between sort of venue staff, celebrants, whoever else, you know, we're all there to work as a team and make sure things are perfect where we can. But yeah, like you, Iain, I've lost count of the number of times that I've been fixing flowers onto guys' jackets and whatnot, but we do what we can.
Yeah. Corsages and keeping the groom nice and calm and ready for what's happening can be really important. But there's other things there are things, this has never happened to me, but it's something I'm always aware of. And I always have a couple of wedding rings with me at a ceremony, just in case those rings aren't there, because you can do a ring exchange with, you know, different rings during the ceremony and then replace them afterwards. You know, that can be done later. But if you find it, you always check who's got the rings, has anything happened to them, are the rings in place? If the rings are not in place at that point, you can't always be sure that you're going to be able to fix it. Things do get left behind at the beginning, so I'm always ready for something like that. And I've even been at a ceremony where all the flowers did arrive, but the little bridesmaids were arriving from their parents' homes. They all arrived thinking that their flowers to walk down the aisle were already there. And they weren't. So there were all these little girls, there were a lot of little girls at this wedding. None of them had their flowers to walk down the aisle with. And that was a case of literally, you know, hook up your skirt and worry about your high heels, climb into the hotel gardens with the MC from the hotel and start sniffing flowers for little girls to walk down the aisle with. So yeah, I think having suppliers that they're just really involved in your wedding, they're just really loving what they're doing, I think that makes a huge difference. And when you're looking at things like personal choice of music, personal choice of the words that you're going to say at your ceremony, then having that input is really, really important. I was going to ask Kirsty, do you find you're being asked for hymns to be sung even at weddings that aren't in church or aren't religious at all? Do you find that people are going for music that's got a faith element to it, even when that's not the couple's background?
Yeah, that can sometimes happen, absolutely. And I think one of the great things is that it's possible. You know, obviously a lot of the time I would be, you know, traditionally you're singing hymns in a church setting, but actually, you know, I've done that a lot of the time whenever it has been in a venue setting. And actually, you know, for many reasons, the fact that they didn't want to get married in a church, they wanted to get married in a venue, but they wanted the hymns, or the fact that maybe there's a parent or a grandparent who that's their tradition and they want to honor what's happening there. And I think that's like really, really important. I think it's also a big part of my work. So yeah, like I love singing the solos and getting to you know, do my thing with that. But actually for me, like one of the things that really, you know, really helps couples is knowing that I'm going to be there singing their hymns on their, if that's something they want, on their day. Because actually one of the things that we'll all have experienced at some point is that awful mumbling, you know, that can happen sometimes if people don't know the hymns that well. And if you've got someone who can have a strong lead from the front, then if the good thing is then it means in both instances it's fine. So either nobody decides to sing because then they think, well, someone's singing and it's fine and I don't really know this, so then you just have me singing. Or actually it gives people more of like they can just sing along, and because there is that, and it's not like, oh, no one's gonna, you know, will people hear me, you know, that kind of thing. So I think that's something that's really important. And I think, you know, so many couples have so many different ideas. There's many couples who would never want hymns, but actually knowing that that was a possibility outside of a church wedding, I think really is something that's great, because it means that people can have what they want, you know, and that's and I think that's like, you know, what all of us who are on this call today want, is like for people to be able to have what they want. And I think for me, you know, I would say one of my top tips probably for couples is to look into like all of the potential suppliers, whether that's musicians or, you know, all the different kinds of suppliers you can have, you know, for your wedding, and know all the range of options, because, you know, it's so easy to, you know, I've chatted to friends who have said, oh, if I'd only known that, you know, such and such was available, then I maybe would have got that for my wedding. And I think, you know, and again, earlier on I was talking about that, saying, you know, that kind of, you know, that percentage of couples who never thought of a wedding ceremony singer before they met me. And I think you know, that could be said for many of us, that actually, you know, before they've met us, they've not really thought this is something, you know, this is something that I'm that I'd be looking for. But I think live music, obviously, I'm very biased, but like live music just does bring so much. And if you are someone who loves that, it's just going to completely you know, change the sort of face of your ceremony, because there's so many things that bring it together. But you know, music is, well, yeah, we've talked about this, Aileen, is, you know, music is something that is used so much in so many different points during the service, and it's very irregular that people wouldn't want to have music at all, you know, whether it's live or pre-recorded.
Can I just one of the points that you kind of touched on there? I don't think enough weddings have wedding singers. We actually had a wedding singer for our wedding ourselves, and yeah, it's the fact that it doesn't seem like it's something that's kind of too easily available. I massively recommend it, as I say, for having our own wedding. But one of the key things I think you touched on there as well is, for the last like 20 years we've been doing the likes of the SEC wedding show, and apart from last year, and for obvious reasons, but people come up and say, no, I've already got like a string quartet or something like that, and so we don't want a piper. And I was like, well, actually wait there, because it does really kind of work very well together. I'd absolutely, if any wedding can effectively kind of add to the list of things that they've got on their wedding day, I'd absolutely recommend having a mixture. You know, like sort of, I've pointed earlier, I generally wouldn't play, unless it's maybe outdoors, I generally wouldn't play during the signing of the register. And so, I mean, if you've got something like one of the two of you there, then basically you'd have that for settling the tone before the ceremony, the piper obviously outside, and then when it comes to down the aisle, obviously I would normally say yourselves are kind of better place for down the aisle, but obviously if you don't have yourselves, then yeah, have a nice kind of slow tune in the pipes, like Highland Cathedral or something like that. Is a very popular one. And then for coming back up the aisle, then you've got your options, like do you want the same as what you had for down the aisle and during the signing, or do you want something kind of loud to get everyone clapping and cheering along to? They work perfectly together, and I think it's totally undersold. The amount of times, and well in the thousands, people have come and said, no, I can't have that because I've got this, or yeah, I've got a piper, you've got yourselves booked, so that's fine, that's our music sorted. It's not. It's really, you know, it's, and from my point of view, I mean, obviously we had a lot of music at ours and a lot of kind of varied music. Yeah. And yeah, it's just wanted to kind of make sure people know that that's, you know, don't restrict yourself. Kind of the more variety you've got, the better. In my book, obviously, being a live musician, the better wedding, I think.
Well, I think I'd probably like to leave everybody with a quote from an ancient Persian poet called Hafiz. And Hafiz said, "The words you speak become the house you live in." And just thinking about your wedding ceremony, and these are probably the most important words you will ever say to each other. And it's really important that those words that you say, they're going to build your marriage. So they have to be your words, not your celebrant's words. Even if your celebrant writes them for you, it's really important that your celebrant finds what your words are and writes those words rather than just their own. So I think that's probably what's at the heart of how I write a ceremony and what I would like to leave everybody with today. I'm very easy to contact. You can find me, I've got a website and I've got a celebrant directory entry. And if you Google Aileen Watson Ceremony Central, or even just Aileen Watson Celebrant, then my name will pop up and you'll see me there. So please feel free to contact me.
Totally agree there with Aileen's words about how important those personalised words are in your ceremony. And I love the idea of the music being the soundtrack to that. You wouldn't have a movie without music. You sometimes don't always notice the music, but it can just really add so much to it. I mean, music is everywhere, so have your personal music at your wedding. It's what I'm passionate about. I know that all of us are here, literally all singing from the same hymn sheet, I think. If you've got any questions about your music from this, I know that you can get in touch with any of us, but you can always DM me at Amarone Music on Instagram or Facebook, or an email at info@amaronemusic.co.uk to just talk about different options we can do for you.
So I hope during this we've kind of given everyone a good idea of how everyone can work together, and how, especially having experienced a wedding professional, that they know how to work together and over and above kind of help your day go as smoothly as possible. And certainly if anyone's looking for any traditional piping for their big day, then again, easily contactable on Facebook under Piping Services, pipingservices.com, at info@pipingservices.com for the email, or by phone that you can find on all of the above.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this has been great to have this conversation. It's lovely to be chatting with fellow suppliers, and getting excited about weddings is always a great thing, isn't it? Yeah, and if anyone's interested in chatting about ceremony singing, then I'm on Facebook as Kirsty Duncan Professional Singer, and yeah, you can get in touch with me that way, or in many other ways, as you can imagine. Anyway, just thank you so much for everyone for chatting today, and for all of you for watching. And yes, we hope to be back soon to talk more in depth about this subject. So if you have any questions, then get in touch with us personally, or comment below, and we will respond to you. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.